Hey there, good morning. It is 9 17 October 6th, Monday morning, and I am getting my day started. So today I had a couple of things that were focusing through my mind. I could not sleep yesterday. I was agitated because I had rearranged my bedroom and I was starting to get excited about the way that it was arranged, right? Because it's like, okay, now that gives me a little bit more shift of energy so that I can get my projects done. And then so I'm prioritizing what's important to me. And I can tell by the way that I'm rearranging my room. Okay. So the fact that I brought my sewing machine in here tells me that that's the main thing that I care about. I care about my hobbies. I care about, my personal life. I care about the things in my life. And that's really, I care about, career. I do. But see, I think what's negative about the career is the immature behavior of people. And see, this is what I would say a lot of people find very disappointing, very demoralizing, because a lot of people, initially they look forward to going to work. I think most people do, especially like, for example, women or men for that matter, who, go and they study and they want to, they aspire to come out doing something that's ideal to them, okay? And then they come in and they go into the workforce and it just is a major disappointment, mainly because of leadership. And I have very little respect for the so-called leadership in the workplaces, at least that I've been in, okay? And the reason why is because they you know I had mentioned several times how I feel about the world in general, meaning how seeing how topsy-turvy it is, okay? It's like they people claim to be educated but they're not. They claim to be, Christian, but I believe that Christianity is the most demonic religion that has ever existed on the face of this planet. And I can honestly prove it, okay? Just the very fact that I had experienced what I experienced and the unrepentant attitude of the so called Christians that I've had to deal with tells it and shows it. I also had, mentioned that, people who have good lives, it's very obvious. You could tell by their life that you just by looking at them, just by the way that they behave and their mannerisms and how they speak and how they treat other people. I have yet to meet a Christian that truly was a somebody who tried to walk in the footsteps of Christ. Okay, so and I'm basically uh, talking from my own experience. Okay, I think my cat. Get out. Let's get out. Get out. Out. Feed it. Okay, so this is the intuitive message that came through my mind today. Is that I know that there was a lot of people in this community, or I would say worldwide, because these people, I would say the Collins, the Mumas, as well as I don't know who Sarah is, but I do believe that she played an integral role in my harassment. Okay, and which I won't. I'm going to be very clear. I will never forgive you for any of the things that you've done. I will never forgive it. It is not excusable. I do not find it. I have no reason to feel any sort of affection for you or any sense of like, well, I want to, make things better so that, we can grow closer. I do not want anything to do with you at all. Okay. I want to make this very clear. Okay. And this goes for the rest of the people that I knew in my past. Okay. For people to think that they would want to come back into my life after everything that they've done to me. Okay. Regardless if they say, oh, I'm sorry, whatever. The thing is that I do not believe in being a stepping stone for anyone. For anyone. Okay. And you can, if you defile a relationship to the point of what you've done, it's over. Okay, you do have a responsibility to clear my name. You do have a responsibility to get the hell out of my way. You do have the responsibility to get my name out of your mouth. But I have no obligation to give one crap about you at all. Okay, and this goes for the Muma family as well. So the intuitive messages that kept coming through my mind this morning when I first woke up after watching, I watched a few YouTube videos yesterday, and the reason why is because I don't sit here and like want to hone in on what you people are thinking, but I don't have anything to do, right? So I kind of exhausted myself just listening to meditation music yesterday, and I kept thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and listen to a couple YouTube videos, but I'm going to get into this later. Okay, but what did influence me or encourage me to make this video is that I feel as though, when it comes to these so-called Christian groups within all these denominations I got together, okay, I don't believe that, I do not Okay, I believe that I must be the chosen one, just because of everything, not because I'm trying to promote myself to be the chosen one, but because it is obvious. Okay, just by, the things that people have done and everything like that. I will never endorse any of your religions at all. Okay, I don't believe that you guys really have what it takes to be. I mean, what I'm saying is the disrespect from the religions. Okay, now it's a lot of people. I'll go into that later. I'm getting another intuitive message. Okay, but when I had talked about me being me coming to find out who I was and everything, and I know that there was a lot of people who were gossiping, and I do believe that Christianity is a religion that has basically tried to steal the identity of the original chosen one. Okay, and they have obviously packaged it in a different way. They've obviously stolen everything from me and made it their own, and then tried to vilify me. So what Christianity is, okay, as a whole, okay, and I'm not talking about the individual denominations, is a mockery of what is sacred. That is what it is. Okay, and I've always known, like when I would see my sister Tanya and the way that she was behaving, and I would notice her brainwashing, and not just my sister Tanya, in many other people. Okay, so and I know I've talked about things like MK Ultra and everything else. Okay, there's been all kinds of mind manipulation in forceful ways, manipulative, coercive ways, creepy type behaviors that have surfaced on the earth, right, and has influenced many people. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why people have these dualistic thoughts, and they don't really know what they believe, and they are all broken, and they're always quick to sit here and cast blame on people, and they have a problem of taking any sort of accountability for the things that they do. Now, yesterday I saw a video about uh, someone was talking about, people coming now to understand what the true story was, okay? Because people, it was very one sided. I personally believe that people accepted that bullshit narrative. To me, it's impossible for anybody to have ever believed that. That is impossible for anybody to ever believe that I was, with Bruce, or I was in some sort of love. None of that could have ever happened. Okay, obviously people were witnessing my behaviors, my me going in and out of my house, especially I think when it was when I was going living over at Adidas Court or whatever. People knew what I was doing. Okay, so it's bullshit. Everything that they've said is bullshit. Okay, but what they do is they try to they go into this sense of denial. They want to reject, that they don't want to accept the fact that they're evil. They don't want to accept the fact that they're evil. Okay, so I saw this video yesterday, and it was talking about how people were saying that, oh, this was your assignment. I believe it's assignment to a certain degree. Okay, what it is we have the churches, right, and then we have their complacency in the cloning process. Okay, it's like they are, to me, I will hold them 100% accountable for promoting the what do you call it, the propaganda in order to affect the lives of people such as myself. Okay, so when I think about the like people like the Mumaz family. Okay, I'm going to tell them I'm going to address the Mumaz family right now. Okay, I do not. I could, I honestly think that there's something wrong with people who take on your sort of behavior and this kind of stance that you take. Okay, this girl that was talking in her YouTube video, she was saying that I took on this assignment, and that uh, that it's what was saying is, when I in my newsletter I was talking about how when I died when I was CB Braganza, I did not want to come back. Okay, I look at the cloning process as alien abduction, meaning this was against my will. Okay, I would never. I don't believe in the cloning process. Not for me. Okay, now I do believe that there's certain people. I refer to these people as earth dwellers, people who love the monetary system, people who like being on Earth. They like the earthly functions of Earth. When I say Earth, I'm talking about the world. Okay, because I love the Earth. I hate the world. Okay, so they love the gamble. They love the thrill of how the stock market and everything else. They love this kind of stuff. Okay, to me, I see the wickedness that it creates in people. So why should I love it? I could not possibly love what it does and how it creates evil into people. Okay, but this is what they love. They love the Earth. They love the how it functions. They love the world. That's what I should say. Okay. I love like the flowers and the trees, the wizards, whatever that kind of stuff. But I do not love, the false narrative of the media. I don't like any of that stuff. Okay. I honestly shut myself away from it. I cannot stand it. Why? Because I'm of angelic origin. Okay. So this girl was basically saying that, we choose our paths. So therefore, this was trying to absolve her guilt for being a participant in human trafficking. No, okay, there is a cloning process, and there's people who force cloning upon other people, and that's what it is. Okay, no one asked for this assignment. I can assure you of that. Okay, I would not ever have said, "Oh, I want to come back and live with Mary Gordon, and I want to be around these people of AV and AV, these Nazi kids." No one would want to do that. No one would want to do that. But you know why they say this? Is because they want to absolve themselves from guilt of being a participant within a Christian religion and condoning it. So therefore, it makes them feel better. Okay? I cannot stand Christianity. I hate Christianity. It is a garbage religion. Okay? It was in the past. It seems like it has always been. Now, I don't step in. This is my reason why I have never continued going into Christian religions. This is the reason why you don't see my name on one of their rosters. It had nothing to do with me saying, "Oh, I'm a rebellious person," or "I choose to live like in a debaucherous state." Quite the contrary. Okay, I recognize Christianity for what it was, an evil empire. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so the message I was getting when I got up, see, I am always diverting my attention because I have so much to say this morning, okay? But anyway, the message I got up when I got up this morning was the protective spells that I cast upon myself, okay? And the deaths that occurred because of it was 100% justified. And I should not feel sorry for one person who ended up dead, okay? Because you know why? Because many of these people, first of all, when I'm dealing with somebody who came from a Christian background, okay, I tread lightly. Okay, and I'm always polite to these people, okay? But I already know that they've got something going on. I can already tell that they got something going on, okay? Christianity has been going off of this same narrative for centuries, okay? So there's a lot of deeply embedded, brainwashed people walking around, and I hear their jargon all the time, and I do not want to hear it. I do not want to hear it and then they'll sit there and act like, they need to preach to me. I've been studying the Bible forever, as well as the fact that I'm an angelic creature. I don't need to hear one word out of your mouth. So yes, the death requests that I've made for the people to get off this earth, if they left this earth, they got what they deserved. Okay, because people do not understand what is sacred. They have no concept of it. No concept of it. They might show it, right, when they go to the church or doing this kind of stuff, but outward, when they get on the phone with their friends, when they feel a little insecure, when they feel, they have a need to sit here and want to elevate themselves at your expense, people are evil. And that's just the way it is. And their churches have not helped them in any way, okay? They are actually propagating the hatred. Okay, so no, I do not believe in churches. I do not endorse churches, and I never will. The other message I'm getting is, oh yeah, okay, I wrote this down. I was like, yeah, burden babies, no one chooses to be cloned. Okay, period. Okay, so no, I did not choose this assignment. I did not do anything like that. They had my DNA, and I was drawn into it. Okay, if I did in any way feel some sort of appeal to come back, it was most likely to be with my father. That was it. Okay, anything else? Nope, nope. I did not choose to be with Mary Gordon. No, I did not. This is anytime somebody says it's the only reason why they're saying it because they don't want to deal with their guilt for being participant. So then when this girl was talking, I kept thinking, okay, so what is it that she had against me? What is it that she felt like she needed? Because I can tell a lot of these YouTube readers, the tarot readers, a lot of these people participated in my targeting. As a matter of fact, a lot of these people to me are part of the ops. And yes, they are, okay, just by their narratives that they create, okay? So what she didn't like about me was the fact that I like 60s music. Okay, so she was willing to sit here and have somebody, and so I could see on her face, like she really wanted to hang on to this idea, like, oh, well, you chose it. No, I did not choose this assignment. The church that you sat here and you sit there and you give your tithes to, and the pastor that you basically worship, and you sit there and you blindly follow, is the reason why I'm in this situation, okay? And that's the only reason why. Okay, you're evil for even thinking that. So anyway, the other intuitive messages I'm getting is like, I am acknowledged and praised by all faiths, as well as, the issue of me bringing up the sacred geometry. Like I said, I look at churches and they are nothing but ripoffs of people who truly are uh, God-fearing people. Okay, the institution of Christianity to me is garbage. Will always be garbage, and I will piss on it every single time. Okay, I have no respect for it. Okay, and don't sit here and try to act like, oh, she doesn't have any respect for God. She doesn't know. I do not have respect for the hypocrisy that goes on in these churches. Period. Okay, and I do not like dealing with their brainwashed freaks. Okay. And the other thing, okay, I want to talk about the future of cloning. Now, I mentioned this briefly in my newsletter about cloning, the future of cloning. Like I said, I have no intentions of ever coming back on this planet again, regardless whether or not the conditions are improved. Okay, I understand that a lot of people struggle with their ego. They continually struggle with their ego. And so, how it ends up, I really don't know. Okay. I mean, I personally, I tried to give a roadmap. These people wanted to block me, whatever, because they want to be evil. Okay. I don't know who this Sarah person is. I don't want to know who she is. She's evil to me. Okay. Terry Collins is another evil person. No, I do not ever want to have anything to do with you. I hope you're dead. In fact, I do. Okay. But when it comes to the cloning process, okay, now in the past, the churches would sit here and clone people that they looked upon as, you know, uh, that they, how can I say this? Superior with higher quality traits. And then a lot of these people came out like who may have been royalty in one life are now politicians and celebrities. I already talked about that. Okay. But see, this is what they were doing, more of an involuntary thing. So I'm assuming that the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses get baptized is because they've always talked about coming back in the new system, living on earth, right? So to me, it seems as though once you get baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, you come right back uh, at some point. These particular cloning operations will bring you back. Now, I don't know who's going to be like an authorized cloning facility. I'm sure there would be some sort of like, standard. There should be some sort of standard on that. And I'm just basically saying this based off of my understanding of how the new system was supposed to work. Okay, this is what I'm saying. Okay, based on this religion, because how else are people going to live forever and be immortals? And this was the whole basis of their religion. Okay, so in this case, then there would have to be clones. So, like for example, Amanda died in 2011. She's somebody I grew up with who was a Jehovah's Witness. At some point, then she would have to be cloned and be reintroduced back into the population. Something about me, there's a message coming in about me being back in touch with celebrities. If the desire comes across for me to say hi to somebody, I will, okay? But, you have to understand from my point of view, okay? I'm very leery about coming into contact with people who've been associated with Christianity. Okay, and that includes the celebrities. And I mean, I like them and everything, okay? But these are some of the people who are sitting here thrashing my name, talking shit about me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you right now, yeah, it's shocking that somebody would do something like that, but I know who I am. I know who I am, okay? And so, no, to me, it's like, how could I say this? It's like, I look at that as a form of defilement. Like, it's like it's a form of disrespect that I honestly do not feel as though I should, or I have, at this point, I have no obligation to treat anybody with any sort of respect at all at this point. So it's like, the only, you'd be happy if I'm polite to you. It really is that way. So anyway, going back to the cloning thing. Okay, so I'm assuming that once, like the Jehovah's Witnesses that would get baptized, their baptismal records get filed in their congregation. I guess it goes up to some sort of headquarters. So in the case of where they were getting ready to reclone people, bringing back from the dead, because that was their whole spiel about bringing people back from the dead, they would look at people like Amanda and they would bring them back in clone form and then obviously I don't know if they have made clones to where they're continuously living, and then have to go back and get another cloning body. I really don't know. But whatever the case is, it's like, I believe that the Christian religions have basically built their life around me. They basically, because I know that, Mormons have, like, you know took an interest in polygamy. We have these people who want to live forever on earth, trying to imitate my immortality, or what they believe to be immortality. And like I said, all this is speculative, okay? And I want people to understand, because I know people they always want to sit here and put something on me, because they are highly prone to brainwashing. Okay. And it shows, because they've been in their congregations for a very long time. So I'm very careful when it comes to Christian people and people who've been associated with the churches in general. Okay. But no, I mean, what I'm saying is, it's like, um, it's all speculative. Okay. The whole idea of how Jehovah's Witnesses and how people would be brought back in the cloning process. So, like, we have Amanda, who died, I believe, in 2010 or 2011, I believe it was. So then she, at some point, would be coming back to the earth. I guess that's how it. And cloning at this point would now be consensual, meaning, like, if you were baptized, that seems like it's some sort of consent, saying, you know what, I agree to come back here. Okay, because I never agreed to come back here. Never. Okay, I believe that it is improper to do. It is a wrong thing to do, to sit here and, like, bring somebody back and then put them in such, and then lie. Okay, so the church, to me, is the foundation of the devil. It is the foundation of the devil. Period. And I'm not even going to flinch when I say that. And so this is the reason why I wanted nothing to do with Christianity. I recognized it for what it was. It was an evil empire, period. And people used to think, oh, that's so edgy to say. It's true. It's the truth. Okay? Now, so the cloning process would most likely be voluntary through baptismal records. It's a confirmation saying, I agree to do this. I agree to come back to earth. Now, see, the reason why I believe earthly life should be as it should be, it's an irregular cycle process. You live, you die, the end. You live, you die, the end. I never believed in the cloning process. Now, I mean, I think there are some benefits into it. There's some benefits. There must be some benefits to it. Okay, like, for example, if you had a kid and they passed away and you missed it so much. Okay, but like I said, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you to do that. Okay, but uh, I believe cloning should be consensual, and I know in the past it was done where they would get the consent of the family members. Okay, which is stupid. Okay, because this is your soul. Okay, and there is nothing wrong with my soul. My soul is pure. I'm not saying that I've never done anything wrong, because I have done. In the past, you learn from your mistakes. Okay, but I'm saying it is the church that is wicked. Okay, I am not wicked. Now, I did want to address people like oh, wait a second. I wrote these down. Okay, yeah, no one had any right to divert my career goals. Okay, so that is acknowledged by these people. Now, I wanted to say something, and I think I'm keeping this conversation very up and up. Like, I'm not pointing out people, okay? But when it does come to Terry Collins taking control over my career, which she had no right to do, okay? This was something I get this to in a message that had something to do with the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, first of all, I've never been on your membership list. I have always been a drifter in and a drifter out, meaning, like, I would go to your meetings on the weeks, on the weekly meetings. I would go and attend maybe a couple. I would attend the Sunday meeting, and then when I got about 25 years old, I was like, I don't ever want to step into a Kingdom Hall ever again. Okay, I look at your religion as hypocrisy. I've read the history of your religion. I know about your religious faith. I understand about all the leaders and everything else. And what I did like about Jehovah's Witnesses is the fact that they were neutral. They stayed politically neutral. Okay, and that's how I choose to feel. I mean, that's how I choose to be. Okay, I just believe in what's right and what's wrong. It's either right or it's wrong. Okay. I don't sit here and get wrapped up in, certain things. I'm not wrapped up in, materialism, or to the point of where I feel like I want people to recognize me, or I need to have some sort of status, or I'm not into any of that. I'm somebody who just chooses to, go to work, come home. I keep to myself. Okay. And I try to be, I mean, I try to do everything I can to stay within the guidelines of the law. Okay, that's all I do. I've never, and there's nothing wrong with people who say that they're Democratic or they're Republican, but I think it's been very well noted that I've always been a neutral person. So when it comes to this particular Jehovah's Witnesses, throughout my life of dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses, I've seen these people to be very repressed, angry people. Okay, and the reason why they wanted to divert my career goals is because they knew good and well that I could have been a CPA instantly. And so a lot of the women I would say, in the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, they are used to being doormats and having a useless existence. Okay, and their husbands are happy to put them in that situation, and because they like feeling like they're the head of the household. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Okay, because I understand, uh, that's their way of living. Okay. But I've been put in a situation that I didn't ask to be in, and you sat there and you wanted to limit my abilities to take care of myself. Okay. If you really truly were a law abiding person, you would have stayed out of it. Okay. And that you would have acknowledged the fact that I was not married to Bruce Collins. Bruce Collins is not a Jehovah's Witness. At least he wasn't when I was dating him. You know what I mean? And he wasn't by the last time I remember seeing him. I mean, I don't recall seeing him in many years. Okay, but he was not a formally baptized Jehovah's Witness. I think he might have been considered like a publisher or something like that. He was not a Jehovah's Witness. But you know why? The reason why you jumped on the bandwagon, because you wanted some sort of notoriety. That's what you did. Okay. I see through people, and I don't respect you. I don't endorse your congregation. I think your Watchtower, as well as your Awake magazine, should be used for toilet paper. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that was just ridiculous. Okay. So Terry had no right to be involved in my life. Okay. And I'm going to make this very clear. Okay. I do not have a kingdom spouse. I will never have a kingdom spouse. Okay. I would never be married to any of you. Okay. I don't want anything to do with church going people and your stupid customs that you make up to feel good about yourself. And yeah, I said it. Okay. I don't endorse the churches. Okay. If I am the savior, I do not endorse your churches. Okay. You have false doctrines, and you have control that is very disgusting in your church. Okay. You are a mockery of what is really holy. There, I said it. Anyway, the intuitive message I want to talk about is it's me. When it comes to me looking for work, I said, like I said, I hate having to deal with these demonic people. Okay. And it's something I feel is important to do. I think it's also important for me to say is that I know that these people tried to indoctrinate my son into their religion. You had no right to do that. You had no right to do that. Okay. Your religion is demonic. Okay. And the very fact that you had this, like, if you recognize me as King Solomon, and you knew who King Solomon was, and you understood the genealogy, which I don't think you did. Okay. So right now we're dealing with ignorance. Okay. I just honestly cannot stand dealing with these people. Anyway, yeah, I do need to look for work, but I'm not doing it enthusiastically. Okay. As a matter of fact, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, this is a fucking nightmare. Okay. Something about the celebrities wanting to reconnect. Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah, okay, people are recognizing that I am an angelic being. Yes, I am an angelic being of my DNA, okay? It's bullshit to sit here and say I wanted to come back here. That's a lie. Okay? The churches are demonic, okay? And I want to say to the Muma family, you are demonic, and I do not like you. And I never will. Okay? I will never like you. As a matter of fact, I do believe that you're also responsible for torturing my father to death. Okay, I will never have any respect for you. You are evil as hell. Okay, and I remember when I was working in Chatsworth. Okay, actually, it was a few years ago. I had seen a movie, a documentary that piqued my interest. Okay, I think it was 2003. Okay, so it wasn't when I got to it wasn't when I was working at organized sports, but I remember having a conversation about this when I was working at Organized Sports. I saw a video, I think it was like in 2000, early 2000s, about people who were bringing, I think it's called a certain kind of sacrifice or certain something. It's about the home funeral industry. Okay, it's about the home funeral industry and how people are burying their own, their own dead. And the reason why is because it's more affordable, right? But I do believe that a lot of the churches, as well as the funeral homes, are very corrupt, and they have done things and desecrated people's bodies. Okay, so this is what, but I remember seeing this video and I kept thinking, that's wonderful. Now, I didn't know at the time I was CB Braganza or anything like that, but I know that I worked in that industry as CB Braganza, and I must have liked it. Okay, but I took an interest in it because it is, I feel as though some of these cemeteries are, or I shouldn't say cemeteries, but like the mortuaries, okay, were hand in hand with the churches, and I think you guys are just absolutely vile. Absolutely vile. Okay. There's actually depictions of this sort of thing in occult books. Okay. And it shows like, people in the middle of the night. It's actually, it's a depiction. It is not an accuracy. Okay. But do I believe that this particular depiction was showing or trying to illustrate the cloning process? Yes, I do. I do. I truly do. Okay. And I do look at cloning as a form of necromancy. That's exactly what I look at it as. So people are having press conferences about me and talking about me and whatever. But anyway, the other intuitive message is if I want company, people are interested in visiting me. I'm very reluctant to have company at this point in my life. Okay. And I did hear another intuitive message or video. Wasn't intuitive message. It was a video. Okay. And people were talking about, people in my neighborhood are afraid of me. You have no reason to be afraid of me. Okay. You have no reason to be afraid of me. I am not going to hurt you. Okay. But yes, it's very likely that I'm going to keep to myself. Okay? That was one of the reasons people feel uneasy that I keep to myself. I keep to myself. You know why? Because I know that deep down inside, you were sitting here propagating against me, talk shit about me. You were putting me in this situation, and you were a part of the human trafficking. I cannot look at you as anything other than something that I could be polite to. That's it. Okay. So no, you're not going to be my buddy friend. You're not going to hang out in my house. I'm never going to invite you anywhere. I mean, it makes sense. Okay. So we're polite. It makes sense. Okay. I'm not sitting here plotting against you or anything else like that. Okay. But I personally feel as though, that it's realistic. It's realistic. Okay. I show you common courtesy, and you should do the same. Period. Okay. I will never have any respect for you other than that. Okay. So yes, the whole issue about me liking white music, this was brought up by Terry Collins as well as Sarah. And they use this to sit here and get people's attention and create, controversy and to sit here. And the reason why is because Terry Collins has been released, as well as a lot of other white people, okay? When white people try to tell you what you should and should not like, that is a way of them trying to dehumanize you, okay? This is the main reason why I did not want my son having anything to do with you. At all. I did not want my son knowing you at all. I kept your name, Bruce's name off the birth certificate because I did not want him to know you guys. Okay. Sure enough, I was right. The intuitive message I'm getting right now is popping back in my mind as well as in the cards. It says all the death spells I did and performed for the people who were attacking me were justified and completely deserved. How dare you try to raise my son to disrespect me? You deserve to die, Terry Collins. You do not deserve one moment's rest. Okay? If there is some sort of bringing back people back to the earth, you do not deserve to come back. You are evil. Okay. And this is what I'm telling you. Like, I knew that most Christians that I was raised up around, I knew my sister was crazy. I knew Jim Culligan was a liar. I knew Jeff Hughes was a liar. I knew Lisa was just a fucking outright joke. Okay. So most people who sit here and go to who claim to be Christian are nothing more than liars. Okay. They're just grinning in your face, and they're just they're just nothing but agents of the devil. Period. So the intuitive messages I've been getting is like a lot of the white people who were in part of this, they understand what they did was wrong. They understand what they did was wrong. Okay, you had no right to sit here and talk to my son. Yes, and the people who ended up dead, like I said, you launched this war. I was in my house trying to figure out what the heck was going on. So it was you. All you. All you. So I had brought this issue up. We need to decide or whether or not are white people biologically evil, or is it through some sort of conditioning, social conditioning. Okay, that is an interesting topic to look into. And I would say the future of cloning should possibly, if people take this issue seriously, there should be some sort of monitoring, recording, statistics gathered as to what is the improving of the behavioral patterns within the white race, because I do believe that white people have a serious problem. Okay, I have never thought for 1 minute that I was the problem. Never. I always knew that it was the people on the outside. I've never believed in any of the things the Christians said. Okay, and I always knew what they were using. Is it just a form of control because they were trying to get their way, or is it something that I really should think? No, I've always looked at your religion as nothing but the finest of garbage. The finest of garbage. So it either cleans up, I don't know. I'm certainly not giving it any of my endorsements. That's for damn sure. So anyway, yeah, I'm very glad that people realize that. Okay, so if people ended up dead, and I don't know if the Collins are dead or not. I don't know if Bruce is dead, and I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't care. Okay, I know that people keep wanting to sit here and try to put me into like these stupid ideas or these stupid, what do you call it? Kingdom marriages and stuff like that. It is stupid to think that I would ever want to have any sort of romantic relationship, any sort of relationship with a human being. I don't want nothing to do with a human being. I want no intimacy with a human being. I want nothing to do with it. So it's stupid when people say that. That message keeps coming back. Once again, the death spells that I've cast on people was 100% justified. No, I do not want to be in the presence of a human being, to be intimate with a human being, and I want nothing to do with human beings on that level. Okay, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I think that's it. Oh yeah. Now it's making sense to the people of my past as to why I always had an interest in the occult. I realized I had gifts. And I wanted to research it. Okay, I mean, and that makes sense. Okay, and my intuitive messages are saying that I am wanted in certain social circles. Like I said, I need to be very careful. Okay, I'm being very upfront. Do not ever expect me to go into any of your churches. I will never accept your churches ever, ever. Okay, to me, they're nothing more than demonic homes. Okay, they're just breeding grounds for the demonic. That's all they are. Okay. Anything else I have? I think that's it. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to get my day started. Take care. Bye-bye.